The Detroit Lions lose their very first game in the post-Ben Johnson era, losing 34-7 to the Los Angeles Chargers in the Hall of Fame preseason game. It was not a good game. The Detroit Lions offense was awful. The Lions defense was pretty bad for the most part. And overall, there was not a lot of positive takeaways from a team perspective that really give a lot of people hope. A lot of people are upset about the backup quarterback situation. A lot of people are claiming the Detroit Lions don't have enough depth. And there are a lot of negativity coming away from this game. But I actually do think there was quite a bit of positive. I think a lot of the important players that played last night had really good games. I think a lot of the young talent that the Detroit Lions drafted either last year or the year prior showed some really good signs of improvement and some really good signs of what's to come. And overall, I thought the takeaway was far more positive than it was negative. There were, of course, some negative takeaways, but overall, I actually felt pretty good about what the Detroit Lions put on display last night. Now, getting into the box score, it of course doesn't look very good, right? 34-7, a major loss for the Detroit Lions, and it was not a good loss. They weren't able to move the ball on offense. They certainly weren't able to score on offense, and defensively, they weren't very good either. Trey Lance had maybe the game of his life, throwing 13 for 20, 120 yards into touchdowns, and the running game was really good. Hassan Haskins had 34 yards. Naheem Miller Hines had 34 yards. Kamani Vildor had 37 yards. Omarion Hampton had a good couple plays. Vidal had 2 touchdowns. The defense was not very good at stopping anything, but I do think there was some good takeaways. The quarterbacks were not one of them. The quarterbacks were absolutely atrocious. I know Kyle Allen went 9 for 14, but he threw 2 interceptions. He was not very good. The pick that almost went for 6 was a really bad throw. The first interception was not much better. And just overall, it wasn't a good time for Kyle Allen. Overall, his statistics actually don't look too bad outside of the interception, right? 9 for 14, 91 yards, made some really strong throws, made some good throws with timing, but the turnovers, of course, were a major issue and a major concern. Hendon Hooker was not very good. 3 for 6 for 18 yards and an interception. The interception, not totally his fault, kind of got snatched away from Dominic Lovett there at the end, but held the ball for too long. Took too many sacks, was not very good, wasn't decisive with the football. And quite honestly, I think the Hendon Hooker experiment is over and done with in Detroit. For the running backs, Craig Reynolds, I actually thought looked pretty good. 10 carries for 31 yards and a touchdown. Left with a bit of an injury. He walked out the field under his own power, but seemed to just kind of get tackled and fall down a little bit awkwardly. So hope that he is okay moving forward. Other than that, it wasn't very good. Jabari Small was okay. I think had a couple nice moves. Hendon Hooker ran a couple times for not much. And outside of that, again, there wasn't a whole lot moving on the ground. Wide receivers, however, I thought had a much better night. Isaac Tesla had 2 receptions for 46 yards. I thought he showed he was very fluid. He showed he could run some nice routes, showed strong hands, showed separation ability, and really, I thought had the best night of any player on the Detroit Lions offense. Dominic Lovett was also quite good, had 9 targets, a couple of drops, but showed the ability to, move after the catch, showed the ability to, yak the ball after he had it in his hands. And overall, I thought was pretty good. He dropped the first pass, but ran a really nice route to get open. He had a couple nice first downs. He had a couple nice, plays to make people miss. And overall, I thought was pretty good. Showed some return ability for both kick and punt return opportunities. And actually, I walked away feeling like both wide receivers the Detroit Lions drafted were solid picks and honestly could grow into something very strong in the future. I think Isaac Tesla certainly showed he could have a role on an NFL offense with his size, speed, and hands. And I think Dominic Lovett showed that, in a year's time, in 2 years' time, he could be the Khalif Raymond replacement, right? Quick, small, shifty wide receiver out of the slot, good kick and punt return player, and just a guy that can contribute in multiple facets for the Detroit Lions down the board. Other than that, not a whole lot of good football. Other than the 2 rookie wide receivers, nobody had more than a single target, right? Craig Reynolds had 1 for 10. Jacob Sailors had 1 for 6. Jabari Small had 1 for 6. Jackson Meeks had 1 for 5. St. Zestra had 1 for 5. Tom Kennedy had a target. Jacoby Keeney James had a target. But I mean, when you exit a game with 12 receptions and 109 yards, and your top 2 players had 7 of those receptions for, almost 80 of those yards, the rest of your team isn't doing a whole lot for you. And that's not very good. As far as fumbles go, the Lions turned the ball over several times. Grant Stewart fumbled while returning a kick on the first play of the game. Jacoby Keeney-James fumbled as a punt returner, and it was not very good. Jabari Small also fumbled the ball, but the Lions kept that one, so a little bit less drastic and dramatic. Defensively, it was not very good. I thought Anthony Pittman had an okay game with 2 tackles for loss and 6 tackles. Ian Kenley made a couple really nice tackles and a couple nice hits. Grant Stewart, I thought, was pretty good. He came on the blitz a couple times, got to the quarterback, had a couple TFLs. Despite the fumble early, I thought he was quite good for the defense. Ahmad Hassanin had several pressures and a couple nice run stops. I thought he looked really good in his first outing. Nate Lynn, I thought, looked really solid coming off of an ACL tear. Rock Ya-Sin had a couple nice hits. Other than that, not a whole lot, right? Everybody else was kind of okay. Ennis Rakestraw was a bit of a disappointment. He did not play very well. The Lions did not have any takeaways, but of course threw 3 interceptions. And outside of that, not a whole lot. Dominic Lovett, again, 1 kick return for 22 yards and 1 punt return for 19. I thought he was quite good and very electric on the return. Jacoby Keeney-James also, I thought, had some nice returns and made some nice moves in the open field. Jake Bates was 1 for 1 on extra points, did not attempt a field goal, and Jack Fox was doing Jack Fox things with 4 punts for 187 yards. Overall takeaways from this game, I think they were more positive than negative, right? I know we just went through the, box score and kind of said, hey, not a lot of players played very well, but overall, I thought the major players that the Lions wanted to play well and the major players that really should have been, people keeping an eye on, I thought played very well. Hendon Hooker was not good. I think the Hendon Hooker experiment is over, but Isaac Tesla played very well. He's a player that could develop into a role player on this offense. Dominic Lovett played very well. He could develop into a role player on this offense and on the special teams. I thought that Giovanni Manu was quite good. I thought that he played a really good game, was able to open up some rushing lanes, especially in the third quarter. I thought he had some good pass protection reps. He looked really good to me, if not a little bit slow off the ball. He looked like he was thinking a little too much, but from the plays that he made, I thought that there was some really encouraging stuff. I thought there was some really good reps there. And really, I think the backup offensive line in the preseason game, so I guess technically the third offensive line, actually looked quite good. They were opening up some running lanes. They were giving Hendon Hooker some time to throw. And unfortunately, Hooker didn't do much with it. But I thought the offensive line in general was pretty good in the second half of that game. I thought especially a guy like Giovanni Manu was good. I thought that, Kingsley Eguakon played a pretty good game. I thought that overall, there was some solid pieces on that backup offensive line that you could kind of take away and say, yeah, those guys are pretty good. I think the backup secondary that started the game, Avonte Maddox, I thought showed some nice things. Rock Ya-Sin showed some nice things. Those are players that the Lions may have to rely on this season. And really all the players that didn't play well are the guys that didn't have to play well, right? They're the guys that are fringe roster guys. They are bubble players. They are not going to probably make this roster, but they're players that, are going to be here for the preseason. They're going to try to find a way to the practice squad, try to find a way to the 53. But overall, none of those players are really important. The backup cornerbacks that were getting beat towards the end of the game aren't going to be on the roster, right? The defensive tackles that were getting beat towards the end of the game, especially, probably won't make the roster. Some of those offensive linemen will not make the roster. The backup running backs, Jamari Small and those players probably will not make the roster. And overall, I thought it was an okay game. The Lions obviously lost bad. They didn't show a whole lot on offense. And I think the big concern coming away is the quarterback position, right? Kyle Allen threw 2 interceptions, didn't look very good. Hendon Hooker looked atrocious, probably even worse than he did a season ago. But overall, I thought there was some good things. I thought there was some quality. I thought there was some good plays. I thought there was, a good amount of positivity to come out of that game despite the score discrepancy. And to be honest, I mean, it was a different game, right? The Chargers played Trey Lance almost the entire game. They played their first round pick. They played their second round pick. They played a lot of players that are going to be impactful on their roster, whereas the Detroit Lions did for about a quarter and then kind of benched everybody that they thought was going to be important next season. So with that being said, those are kind of my takeaways. I thought it was a good, not a great game for the Detroit Lions. I thought there was some encouraging things from a lot of the young players. Ahmad Hassanin, another player that I thought was phenomenal last night. And overall, the draft picks look good. The young players look good. The guys that are maybe going to develop into roles looked quite good. And everything else really doesn't totally matter. So with that being said, that is my takeaway from the first preseason game. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought, what your big takeaways were, what your thoughts are on the quarterback position, what your thoughts are on the rookies, what your thoughts are on just the game overall. I'd love to hear your opinions down in the comments below. But with all of that being said, that's all I got for you guys right now. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go Lions.